What if one man's messy vacation plans led to a miracle drug that has saved hundreds of millions of lives? Or what if a driver's simple wrong turn didn't just cause a delay, but directly sparked the First World War? History isn't just a story of grand plans and powerful people. More often than not, it's a fragile, unpredictable chain of events, where the smallest moments create the world we live in today. These are the butterfly effects, tiny ripples that grow into tidal waves, and they prove that our past and our present could have been completely, unbelievably different. The whole idea of the butterfly effect comes from chaos theory. In the 1960s, a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz was running a weather simulation. To save a little time, he re-entered a number from a previous run, but rounded it off, from 0.506127 to just 0.506. That tiny change, less than 1,000th of a unit, resulted in a completely different weather forecast. This led him to a wild conclusion. A tiny event, as small as a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil, could theoretically set off a chain reaction that ends in a tornado in Texas. Now, while a literal butterfly causing a tornado is just a metaphor, the principle is very real. History is the ultimate chaotic system, a grand ballet of human decisions, accidents, and pure chance. And when you look closely, you find these butterfly moments everywhere. So today, we're exploring 15 of the most unbelievable chain reactions in history that all started from a single tiny event. Let's start with number 15, the wrong turn that started World War I. It's one of the most famous butterfly effects in history, and it has a tasty, if not entirely true, detail. The stage is Sarajevo, June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary is on a deeply unpopular state visit. A secret society, the Black Hand, has lined the Archduke's parade route with 7 assassins. The morning's assassination attempt is a total bust. The first assassin chickens out. The second throws a grenade, but it bounces off the Archduke's car and explodes under the next one. The motorcade speeds away, the plan is a failure, and the remaining assassins, including a young Gavrilo Princip, scatter. Dejected, Princip supposedly wanders off to Moritz Schiller's delicatessen, and here's where the butterfly flaps its wings. The Archduke, instead of getting the hell out of the city, decides to visit the people injured by the bomb. But his driver, who isn't from the area, takes a wrong turn down Franz Josef Street. As the general in the car shouts that he's going the wrong way, the driver stalls the vehicle trying to reverse. By sheer dumb luck, he has stopped the car directly in front of the very shop where Gavrilo Princip is standing. Princip sees his target, a sitting duck less than 5 feet away. He doesn't hesitate. He fires 2 shots, killing both the Archduke and his wife, Sophie. The fallout was catastrophic. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. That single declaration triggered a domino effect of alliances. Russia mobilized to protect Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia. France and Britain declared war on Germany. While the sandwich detail is likely a historical myth, the core of the story, the wrong turn, is a terrifying example of how one tiny error plunged the world into the First World War. A conflict that claimed over 20 million lives and set the stage for an even deadlier one to follow. Now on to number 14, the unread speech that saved a president. On October 14, 1912, former President Theodore Roosevelt was in Milwaukee, preparing to give a campaign speech. He was running for an unprecedented 3rd term as the head of his own Bull Moose Party. Tucked in his breast pocket were 2 things: his 50-page speech, folded in half, and a sturdy metal glasses case. Those 2 simple items were about to save his life. As Roosevelt waved from his car, a saloon keeper named John Schrank pushed through the crowd, raised a .38 Colt revolver, and fired. The bullet struck Roosevelt squarely in the chest. But here's where the butterfly effect kicks in. The bullet didn't have a clear path. It first had to plow through the thick manuscript of his speech, and then through the steel glasses case before it lodged in his chest muscle. Roosevelt, an experienced hunter, coughed into his hand. No blood. He correctly figured the bullet hadn't punctured his lung. The crowd was about to tear Schrank apart, but Roosevelt shouted for them to stop. What happened next became the stuff of legend. Instead of being rushed to a hospital, Roosevelt insisted on delivering his speech. He stood before the audience, the bullet still in his chest, and boomed, "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot." He opened his jacket to reveal the blood-stained shirt. For the next 90 minutes, he delivered the entire speech. While he lost the election, the event cemented his bull moose persona as a man of almost superhuman toughness and gave his third-party run incredible credibility. Had that bullet not been slowed by a wad of paper and a glasses case, Roosevelt would have certainly died. The progressive movement might have fizzled out, and the political landscape of the 20th century could look vastly different. Number 13. The Fumbled press conference that toppled the Berlin Wall. For 28 years, the Berlin Wall was the ultimate symbol of the Cold War. Its fall on November 9, 1989, felt like a seismic, world-changing event. But it wasn't triggered by a major policy decision. It was triggered by one tired, poorly briefed bureaucrat who fumbled his lines at a boring press conference. The man was Günter Schabowski, an East German official. By late 1989, East Germany was in crisis. Its citizens were fleeing, and mass protests were shaking the regime. The government decided to slightly ease travel restrictions, starting the next day, November 10th, in an orderly, controlled fashion. The party leader scribbled a note with these rules and handed it to Schabowski moments before he faced the press. Schabowski hadn't been in the meeting and hadn't really read the note. He was winging it. Towards the end of the very dull televised conference, a reporter asked about the new travel laws. Reporter: "When does it take effect?" Schabowski shuffled his papers and announced that East Germans could now leave the country through any border crossing. Schabowski, flustered, glanced at his notes, found no date, and shrugged, uttering the fateful words, "As far as I know, effective immediately, without delay. Sofort, unverzüglich." It was a colossal mistake. He'd missed the part about needing to apply for visas and the fact it was supposed to start the next day. But the words were out. West German TV news, widely watched in the East, blasted the headline, "The wall is open." Within hours, thousands of East Berliners were at the wall, demanding to be let through. The border guards were in chaos. They had no orders. Overwhelmed by the crowds, one officer at the Bornholmer Strasse checkpoint finally gave up and ordered the barriers opened. A human flood poured into West Berlin. A simple slip of the tongue had done what decades of political tension could not. Number 12. The invention of the stirrup and the knight in shining armor. How could a small piece of metal for a rider's foot reshape an entire society? The story of the stirrup is a powerful, if debated, example of how one piece of tech can change the world. For millennia, riding a horse into battle was a wobbly affair. A crude toe-loop version first appeared in India around the 2nd century BC, but the true, full-foot stirrup was invented in China around the 4th century AD. From there, it slowly spread west, finally arriving in Europe around the 8th century. Its arrival, according to what's known as the Great Stirrup Controversy, changed warfare. Before the stirrup, charging with a lance was nearly impossible. The impact would knock you right off your horse. But the stirrup fused man and horse into a single devastating weapon. A rider could now stand in the stirrups and deliver the entire momentum of a 1,000-pound animal through the point of a lance. This gave birth to a new kind of soldier, the heavily armored knight. This new style of combat was brutally effective, but also incredibly expensive. a warhorse, and a full set of armor were a fortune. This military reality, the theory goes, was a key ingredient in the rise of feudalism. Kings needed these new cavalry units, but couldn't afford them. The solution? Grant the warriors land, a fief, in exchange for military service. These warriors became the new landed aristocracy. While historians agree feudalism is more complex than this, there's no denying that this small piece of metal played a catalytic role in shaping the medieval world. Number 11. The dirty Petri dish and the dawn of antibiotics. In the summer of 1928, a Scottish bacteriologist named Alexander Fleming was, by his own admission, a bit of a slob. Before leaving for a 2-week vacation, he left a stack of dirty Petri dishes on his lab bench at St. Mary's Hospital in London. An open window let a random mold spore drift in and contaminate one of the dishes. This combo of a messy scientist and a chance spore was about to become one of the most important accidents in history. When Fleming returned, he noticed something odd on one of the dishes. It was covered in bacteria, except for a clear bacteria-free circle around a blob of bluish-green mold. It was as if the mold was secreting something that was killing the bacteria. He had stumbled upon a bacteria killer. Fleming isolated the mold, identified it as penicillium, and named the active substance penicillin. He published his findings in 1929, but nobody really cared. The stuff was too hard to purify and produce. Fast forward to 1940. With World War II raging, a team at Oxford University led by Howard Florey and Ernst Chain revisited Fleming's old paper. They saw its potential for treating battlefield infections. Still, production was painfully slow until a lab assistant found a rotting cantaloupe in Peoria, Illinois, covered in a mold strain that produced vastly more penicillin than Fleming's original. With the US entering the war, production ramped up. By D-Day, there was enough penicillin to treat all Allied casualties. That messy Petri dish led to a wonder drug that has saved an estimated hundreds of millions of lives, turning once fatal infections into treatable conditions. Number 10. The rejected art student. In the early 1900s, a young aspiring artist from Austria named Adolf Hitler moved to Vienna with dreams of becoming a great painter. He applied to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts Vienna twice, in 1907 and 1908, and twice he was rejected. The admissions committee found his drawing skills unsatisfactory. This was a deeply personal humiliation that shattered his dreams. Forced to live in homeless shelters, his bitterness and resentment festered. This was the period when he consumed the racist, nationalist, and anti-Semitic ideologies swirling through the city. His failure in art, combined with this toxic political stew, set him on a completely different path. He gave up on art and turned to politics. The butterfly effect here is a chilling what if. What if the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts had just let him in? Would a career as a mediocre artist have kept him out of politics? Instead, his failure funneled all his ambition and rage into a new, terrifying direction. He took his personal story of being wronged by a corrupt system and blended it with a national narrative of humiliation. This resonated with millions of Germans suffering after World War I. The art school's simple decision inadvertently pushed a man with a monstrous capacity for evil away from the canvas and towards the political stage, leading to the rise of Nazism, the Holocaust, and the deaths of over 70 million people. Number 9. The one man who said no to nuclear war. On September 26, 1983, the world was closer to nuclear annihilation than at almost any other point in history, and hardly anyone knew it. The fate of humanity rested on Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov of the Soviet Air Defense Forces. He was the duty officer at a secret command center outside Moscow, monitoring the early warning satellite system. Cold War tensions were at a screaming pitch. Shortly after midnight, alarms blared. The system reported that a single missile had been launched from the United States. Protocol was crystal clear. Report the launch, which would trigger a retaliatory Soviet strike. But Petrov hesitated. Something felt wrong. A full-scale US first strike wouldn't be a single missile. It would be hundreds. He reasoned it had to be a computer error. Against all orders, he reported a system malfunction. Then, the system went wild. A second missile launch, then a third, a fourth, and a fifth. The screen was now screaming that a nuclear attack was underway. The pressure was unimaginable. Every protocol told him to report it. But his gut, his human intuition, told him the machine was lying. He held his ground, again insisting it was a false alarm. He was right. The satellites had mistaken the reflection of sunlight off high-altitude clouds for missile launches. Petrov's defiance was a massive breach of protocol, and he was reprimanded for it. But his single, courageous no prevented a full-scale nuclear exchange that would have ended civilization. He truly is the man who saved the world. Number 8. A hot summer and the modern city. In the summer of 1858, London, then the richest city in the world, was brought to its knees by a smell. They called it the Great Stink. For centuries, the River Thames had been London's open sewer, but the summer of '58 was unusually hot and dry. The river level dropped, exposing vast banks of raw sewage that baked in the sun. The stench was more than just nasty, it was a crisis. The prevailing theory was that diseases like cholera were spread by miasma or foul air. As the stink intensified, panic gripped the city. It was so powerful it seeped into the Houses of Parliament, right on the riverbank. Politicians, unable to work, were literally driven from their chambers. This was the butterfly effect. It forced Parliament to act with unheard of speed. For years, they had procrastinated. Now, a bill was passed in just 18 days to fund a radical solution from Chief Engineer Joseph Bazalgette. He designed and built a vast network of over 1,000 miles of sewers to intercept the waste it reached the river and carry it far downstream. Bazalgette's system, still the backbone of London's sewers today, didn't just eliminate the stink. By cleaning the river, it accidentally removed the source of waterborne cholera, ending the deadly outbreaks that had plagued the city. One unbearable summer directly led to the modern sanitation system that has been copied worldwide and saved countless lives. Number 7. An edited telegram and the unification of Germany. In 1870, Europe was a powder keg. The rising power of Prussia was making the French Empire very nervous. Prussian Chancellor Otto von Bismarck had a grand vision of a unified Germany, and he knew nothing would unite the smaller German states faster than a war with their common rival France. He just needed a spark. He found it in a polite diplomatic telegram. The crisis was over the vacant throne of Spain. A Prussian prince was offered the crown, which horrified France. The French ambassador was sent to intercept the vacationing Prussian king, Wilhelm II, and demand a guarantee that this would never happen again. The king politely refused to make such a sweeping promise. A report of this polite refusal was sent via telegram to Bismarck in Berlin. In Bismarck's hands, this boring report became a weapon. He took out a pencil and started editing, selectively cutting words to change the tone. His edited version was a masterpiece of provocation. It removed all the polite language, making it sound like the king had sharply insulted the French ambassador. Bismarck then leaked this doctored version to the press. The effect was electric. In Paris, the telegram was seen as a grave insult to French honor. Crowds demanded war. In Germany, it was perceived as the French having aggressively insulted their king. German nationalism surged. Pressured by public outrage, France declared war. This was exactly what Bismarck wanted. The southern German states sided with Prussia, and their swift victory led directly to the proclamation of a unified German empire. Bismarck's pencil strokes had rewritten the map of Europe. Number 6. The exploding battleship and the rise of an empire. On the evening of February 15, 1898, the American battleship USS Maine sat quietly in Havana Harbor, Cuba. At 9:40 p.m., a massive explosion ripped through the ship, killing 260 men and sinking it almost instantly. No one knew what caused it, but America was about to find someone to blame, fast. The real butterfly effect here wasn't the explosion, but the furious reaction to it, fueled by the new yellow journalism. Newspaper tycoons William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer were locked in a circulation war, and facts were optional. Before any real investigation could begin, their papers hit the streets with headlines screaming, "Destruction of the warship Maine was the work of an enemy." They whipped public opinion into a frenzy. A new rallying cry swept the nation. "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain!" President William McKinley, who had been trying to avoid conflict, was cornered by the public pressure. On April 25, 1898, the US declared war on Spain. The Spanish-American War was short and one-sided. Spain's old empire crumbled, and the United States emerged as a new global power, gaining control of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. And the cause of the explosion? Years later, investigations suggested it was most likely an accident, a fire in a coal bunker located right next to a munitions magazine. A tragic accident, fanned into a national outrage by a sensationalist press, became the pretext for a war that launched the American empire. Number 5. A narrow escape that soured an empire. In 1891, the future Tsar Nicholas II of Russia was on a grand tour of the East. His visit to Japan was meant to strengthen ties. Instead, a sudden attack by a lone police officer would plant a seed of personal resentment in the future Tsar's mind that would contribute to a disastrous war. In the city of Ōtsu, a police escort named Tsuda Sanzo suddenly lunged at Nicholas's rickshaw, striking him on the head with a saber. Nicholas jumped out and fled, with Tsuda chasing him. He survived with only a scar, but the diplomatic crisis was immediate. The Japanese government was mortified, fearing Russia would use it as an excuse for war. While the government pushed for the death penalty, the head of Japan's Supreme Court resisted, sentencing Tsuda only to life in prison. This was a landmark moment for Japan's independent judiciary, but it did little to soothe Nicholas's wounded pride. The deeper butterfly effect took years to appear. Nicholas left Japan with a deep-seated prejudice towards the Japanese. When he became Tsar, this personal animosity influenced his foreign policy. He fatally underestimated Japan's military strength as the two empires competed for control over Manchuria and Korea. Convinced the little monkeys, as he sometimes called them, would back down, he was stunned when Japan launched a surprise attack and won the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905. The humiliating defeat helped spark the 1905 revolution, a dress rehearsal for the one in 1917 that would ultimately topple his dynasty. Number 4. The soldier who spared a life. This is a story that feels almost too perfectly ironic to be true, and maybe it is. The setting is a French village on September 28, 1918, during the final months of World War I. Private Henry Tanday, a highly decorated British soldier, found a wounded and disoriented German soldier wandering into his line of fire. The man was injured and didn't even try to raise his rifle. Tanday aimed his own rifle. In that split second, he had the man's life in his hands, but he chose not to shoot. "I took aim, but couldn't shoot a wounded man," Tanday later recalled, "so I let him go." The German soldier simply nodded his thanks and limped away. That spared soldier, according to the story Tanday himself told, was 29-year-old Lance Corporal Adolf Hitler. The evidence is shaky, but Hitler apparently saw a newspaper report about Tandy years later, recognized him, and even hung a print of a painting featuring Tandy in his mountain retreat. Whether the story is 100% accurate or a piece of wartime myth, the what-if it represents is staggering. One pull of the trigger in 1918 could have rewritten the 20th century. Without Hitler, there is no Nazi Party as we know it, no World War II, no Holocaust. It's a deeply unsettling thought that an act of humanity, a moment of mercy we would normally praise, may have inadvertently enabled one of the greatest catastrophes in human history. Number 3, a brief window in the weather. The success of D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history, hinged on something utterly beyond anyone's control: the weather. The entire operation depended on a fleeting, almost miraculous break in a storm. General Eisenhower had a daunting checklist of conditions. He needed a full moon and a low tide at dawn, which would only happen on June 5th, 6th, and 7th. The invasion was set for June 5th. But in the days leading up, a massive storm began brewing. Allied meteorologists, led by Group Captain James Stagg, had a huge advantage. They had weather data from the Atlantic. The German forecasters were largely blind. On June 4th, as the storm raged, Stagg made a courageous forecast. He saw a temporary gap of calmer weather coming on June 6th. It was a huge risk. If he was wrong, the invasion would fail. Based on this sliver of hope, Eisenhower made one of the gutsiest calls of the war. Okay, let's go. The invasion was delayed 24 hours. The German forecasters, meanwhile, saw the storm and predicted the bad weather would last for days. They believed an invasion was impossible. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the German commander, even left his post to go to Germany for his wife's birthday. The German defenses were relaxed, caught completely by surprise when the Allied armada appeared on the morning of June 6th. Stagg's forecast was astonishingly accurate, giving the Allies the opening they needed to change the course of the war. Number 2, a piece of duct tape and the fall of a president. The Watergate scandal, the political firestorm that brought down President Richard Nixon, began not with a grand conspiracy, but with something utterly mundane: a small piece of duct tape. On the night of June 17, 1972, a 24-year-old security guard named Frank Wills was making his rounds at the Watergate office complex. He noticed a piece of tape over the latch of a door in the basement garage, keeping it from locking. Thinking it was just a maintenance worker, he pulled it off. A little later, Wills came by again. The tape was back. This time, he got suspicious. This wasn't an accident. So he called the police. That small act of diligence set everything in motion. The police arrived and found 5 men working for Nixon's re-election campaign inside the Democratic National Committee headquarters, planting bugs. The White House dismissed it as a third-rate burglary, but a persistent investigation by 2 Washington Post reporters, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, slowly unraveled a massive cover-up that led all the way to the Oval Office. Facing certain impeachment, Richard Nixon resigned on August 9, 1974, the only U.S. president ever to do so. The scandal created a deep and lasting distrust of government among the American public. And it all started because a security guard decided a piece of tape just didn't look right. Number 1, the fire that forged a toy empire. In the 1920s, Ole Kirk Christiansen was a carpenter in the small town of Billund, Denmark. After the Great Depression hit his business hard, a personal tragedy struck. In 1924, 2 of his young sons accidentally started a fire that burned his workshop and home to the ground. This catastrophe forced Christiansen to rebuild, and he started making high-quality wooden toys, like a now-famous wooden duck, to make ends meet. Then, in 1942, another fire destroyed his new factory. Again, he rebuilt. But this time, the world was changing. In 1947, Christiansen bought a plastic molding machine, a huge investment that nearly bankrupted him. He started producing a small plastic toy called the automatic binding brick. The bricks sold poorly at first. Then came the final butterfly moment. On a business trip, a purchasing agent told him something that changed everything. The problem with toys is that they have no system. The idea hit Christiansen like a lightning bolt. His bricks could be a system of play. He and his son Gottfried refined the design, adding the crucial hollow tubes on the underside to give them their unique clutch power in 1958. They renamed the company Lego from the Danish leg godt, meaning play well. From the ashes of 2 fires and a chance conversation, a global empire was born, all because a series of disasters forced a humble carpenter to keep rebuilding in new and creative ways. From a fumbled press conference to a piece of tape, history is not a straight line. It's a chaotic and fascinating web. The world we live in is the result of countless tiny moments and accidents that could have easily gone the other way. A different turn of a car, a different answer from an admissions board, a moment of mercy or a moment of suspicion. Any one of these could have sent us down a completely different timeline. It's a humbling thought that the grand sweep of history often balances on the smallest of hinges. It proves that in the grand, complex system of our world, even the flap of a single butterfly's wings can, and often does, change everything. What other butterfly effects from history can you think of? Let us know in the comments below. If you found these historical chain reactions as mind-blowing as we did, be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube for more deep dives into interesting stories about butterflies. Thank you for visiting us at Papillon Chateau, and remember, at Papillon Chateau, every wing tells a story.